is all over the place.
Why?
I don't even understand it. I don't even know. I can't even. I shot a hard 87
And
at.
just flat out, just you killed it?
No, I played horrendous.
Oh.
Like, I gutted out an 87.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You struggled through it. Yeah, I got you.
Struggled through it, played terrible, and just walked away like, man, that very easily could have been a 95 as bad as I played. I just gutted it out.
Gotcha.
And then I go play League yesterday, different course. So, I mean, there's a little bit there, but just the way I struck the ball, whatever was totally different, and missed a putt on the last hole for par. I messed up a shot from 100 yards out.
Yeah.
Just get it on the green.
Mm-hmm.
2 putt for par, and you shoot par, and I lipped out a putt to shoot a 37.
Oh, golly, it's always that kind of stupid stuff.
But it's the weirdest thing, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know. My distances were all off. They were all off Saturday, and then yesterday I was back to kind of more of my normal distances, but I just don't, it's hard when you don't even know.
It's the weirdest deal. It's just such the weirdest deal. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I really want you to go hit the T200s.
Bro, I'm
Dude,
ready.
I'm telling you.
I'm so ready.
I'm telling you, here's the deal. You know why I didn't go with them?
What's that?
I hit them too far.
That does not surprise me at all.
Crazy deal. I tried them. So I got them in a 4 and 5 iron. But in the 7 iron, I
Mhm.
was hitting the 7 iron average distance 201.
Shut up, bro.
It's
Are
unbelievable.
you serious?
Yeah, so I wouldn't have anything. I'd have to carry 5 wedges. And you can only have 14 clubs, so
That is hilarious.
you know, you know.
That's
Look
awesome.
at good morning. Hey, Chief Meteorologist Kim DeStarkey is on with us today.
My wife already chimed in with a no.
Hey,
She don't know.
we have sources of paying for things.
We got it. We got it figured out, don't we?
Yeah. We have meat to eat that you know not of.
I don't know. Does that work on your wife?
Yeah.
He said, All right, let me do the things here. Let me go to Twitter.
All the stuff.
Yeah, we get some action on Twitter and on
That's funny.
YouTube. Action on Twitter and YouTube.
YouTube has been going.
Let's go. I need to I don't know if I really want to say this out loud. I don't think I want to say this out loud.
Okay.
But I think I need to powder my head.
That's awesome. Sometimes you do, right? Sometimes you do.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think that.
Sometimes you do.
That's gonna be bad.
You know what? One of the greatest videos going on X
What is it?
is
Man, I can't say X. It's just hard to get used to.
it's
You're
so
right, though.
weird, man. I'm like, did I even say it right?
Right?
The Nevada Rangers coming and knocking over the climate protester stuff and throwing them on the ground and be like, "Get your butt out of the road!" It was so funny,
It was
man.
awesome.
These people were like, "We're just trying to have a peaceful protest, sir." Like, yeah, well, you go have your peaceful protest in jail.
Yeah, don't do it in the middle of the road. What's funny is I literally am like trying to get to Twitter to retweet that.
Yeah.
Sorry, X, to re-exit or whatever. And that video popped up immediately.
No, see,
Immediately.
they're listening.
100%. All right, there we go. All right, let me retweet this bad boy. Repost it. It says repost it now. I didn't even know that.
Oh, repost.
A repost. That's what you used to do in basketball. I didn't even know that. Right?
Yeah.
You used to repost it.
Huh.
Nate Rio says he can crush a 7-iron.
Yeah.
I think we need to find out.
Well, we have openings for. We've got plenty of upcoming foursomes. We can always. I mean, if it means a person proving their claims, then I guess we'll have to go play golf.
We got to do it. I mean, I don't want to keep somebody from experiencing, seeing you hit a 7-iron 201 yards and demonstrating their abilities. We need to do that.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean,
well, see what's so what he posts. So,
bro, Rios, I love you, dog. I love you. You might want to back that down, bro.
I missed a 4-footer from shooting 33 Saturday.
Don't rattle the big dog's cage, bro.
So listen to this. Maybe. And so the 5-iron, or I'm assuming the 5-iron. So it was carrying like with the T200s,
Yeah.
it was carrying like 220 carry with about 10 yards of rollout. So it's just unbelievable and forgiving. And yet, but here's a crazy deal. So you get the T200s, you can get them in like, your upper irons or whatever. If you want to get them even 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the T150s, you go 8, 9 pitch or whatever, 8, 9 pitch gap. And you can modify that, adjust. So you could weaken the 6 and strengthen the 7, or if you want to go 7, you can like weaken the 7 in the T200, and you can, because they're forged, you can strengthen the T150 because and then you merge their lofts, so your lofts match, and so your gapping is good. But like I was hitting the 9-iron like 170.
Bro, that's just dumb.
I hit 185. So it's about like 185 with my 8-iron, 200 with my 7-iron. So it was like, I think it was like 201. I think there was like 20 shots.
You'd have to have like a 72 wedge to hit the 80,
right?
80 shot.
But that's the thing. So then you go down. So you have you have your pitching wedge. So if your pitching wedge, you're hitting at 150 and change, then you end up with like, okay, so then what are you going to do? I guess, I mean, if they're gap wedge, if you're hitting the gap wedge 135, but here's my deal. Okay, so you're hitting your gap wedge 135. Well, what wedge am I going to get to hit from 80 to 135?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to have a, so like I can hit a 48 degree, like a Vokey, like a 50 degree Vokey, I can hit about 120. So that's what I'd have to do. And I hit about 105 with the 56 degree. So that's what I'd have to do. I'd have to go pitching wedge, gap wedge, 50 degree Vokey gap wedge, 56 degree, and then I wouldn't have anything at the upper end.
But you could you could play the 56 degree. So like I've gotten where if I'm about 60 yards out, I can take my 54 degree.
Yeah.
And play a little bit. I can either run it, play like just a little line shot, let it get on the ground and run, or just take a little off of it, bump it up in the air, and go down. So you just have to put a little more touch with that, but you could do that.
You know what? That's a great point, because my just standard go-to was always 52, 56, 60. Like that was for years. That was but with the new lofts, I've actually gone 50, 54, 58.
Yeah. My 54 degree is probably my favorite club. I had one, I was in some rough yesterday, 74 yards out,
Mm-hmm.
and I launched it. I had to kind of go a little bit over a tree, and I launched it way up in the air and put it about 8 inches from the hole.
Wow.
Almost got me an eagle on a par 5.
That's amazing.
So, I think what needs to happen, so Rios is feeling his Wheaties this morning. So I think what we need to do, bro, I think we need to go down there. He's a big dog, so we need to go down
Mm-hmm.
and he needs to get us on
The Ole
Ole
Miss
Miss
course.
golf course,
Let's go.
and we need to do a little. He can pick up whoever he wants, do a little 2-on-2 in the
Let's do that.
Ole Miss arena.
Bring on one of the Ole Miss players.
Let's do it. I'm down for a trip to Oxford. Let's make it happen, bro.
That's it. It's a done deal.
He said done.
Yep.
Let's go. There's some great comments on there. Danny Aruda, the only sure rule in golf is he who has the fastest golf cart never has to play the bad lie.
Bro. Well, hey, somebody said, what was that? Lee Trevino. They were playing Lee Trevino, and he said, do you think that ball's in the hazard? He said, not if I get there before you.
Exactly.
Lee Trevino said.
Exactly. Alan Smith with the old man golf, a 9 and 10 wood, bro. Those are awesome, man.
I know.
Gotta have a
Was
9
that like the Heavenwood, the Callaway Heavenwood? Like that was
right. He's probably got the chip putter thing too.
Yes.
Right? The little
chipper
chip
thing,
putter. Yeah. Gotta have that.
Is awesome. I played with a guy. I played with a guy not long ago that played Division I college golf, and he didn't have anything above a 4-iron. He had a 4-iron. So here's what he had. He had a 4-iron. He had a hybrid, like I don't know what loft it was, but it was like maybe a 21 degree loft.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had a 4-wood, or I don't know, maybe a turned down 3-wood at like 17 degrees or 16 and a half degrees. And he had a driver 3-wood hybrid, and then he had 4 down through, and then he carried like 5 wedges.
That's awesome. Well, all right, you ready to get rolling? We should do a golf podcast. What we need to do is like do some bonus material. Like we could do a sports basketball one, a golf one. We could do politics.
Right. Bring in our more Cardinal fans.
Suddenly our numbers go way through the roof, bro. Go figure.
We'll do next week. We'll do bonus material next week. We're going to do a 30-minute show, why climate change is just all about wealth redistribution.
We just got blocked by X. We'll never get reposted, re-X'd.
They probably heard me say that.
Dude, for real, man. For real. Greg Davids, not politics. Oh man. Greg used to have a podcast, Stirring the Pot.
Was his podcast?
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of an expert in that level. He knows about it. He knows all about it.
That's awesome, man. Well, this is an awesome podcast because we're going to.
Nice pivot.
That's
called a repost. That's like a basketball repost.
That's like the Jack Sikma turn. Remember Jack Sikma used to pivot away, like inside.
The ball went down to you on the post. There wasn't anything there, so you kicked it back out. We dumped it back down to you. So he's gonna repost.
Get an angle. Yep. Who knew that Elon Musk was a fan of big man basketball? So here we are. People are like, what? I don't even know.
Oh man.
Yeah. We could have a weather podcast with our chief meteorologist Ken Bistarki.
That's never gonna get old.
That is awesome. It sounds right. It sounds right.
And hopefully there are no not snuds on today.
For real.
Here's a true story before we get going, and we'll get started here. Before we got going, I was testing my mic,
Uh-huh.
and I was testing my mic in my Harry Carey voice.
Were you?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mobilized Church podcast. Oh,
That
man.
is awesome. It was both Harry Carey and his color man, G.A. Mangan.
Oh, man. There's a little Tom Brokaw in there, too.
It's true.
Hello, everybody. Tom Brokaw.
I'll be Rosanna Dana. No, I didn't mean that's not what I'm talking about. No.
Barbara Walters?
Baba Wawa.
Baba
Yeah.
Wawa.
Hi. Hello, this is Baba Wawa.
Only a few people will get that reference, bro. You're going way back. You may have just revealed our Saturday Night Live.
We weren't always saved.
Raised in church, man. Baba Wawa. Oh, that's so funny, man. That was Dan Aykroyd, Belushi, Chevy Chase. That was some good stuff. Eddie Murphy.
New birth doesn't erase your memory.
It doesn't.
You have to work for the renewing of your mind.
Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood.
Baseball have been very, very good to me.
He goes, hello, everybody. This is an eviction notice. Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. Oh, man. All right, we better get going before we get into some big trouble. All right, here we go.
We haven't 3-2-1'd it yet, sir.
No, we haven't. So we got a chance to redeem the time. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
No Tom Brokaw, no Harry Carey introduction. We're going to go the real deal today. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mobilized Church podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother, Harry Carey. No, I'm sorry. My big brother, Ken Dillingham Jr. the third.
Yeah, man. It's been a great, serious morning.
Serious.
The podcast is going to be today. It's just going to be one of those that, I don't know, people might want to just pull out their little private altar and get ready.
I think this comment just sums up already out of the gate. This sums up the pre-show. Greg Davis said, here comes the calls from headquarters.
That happened a few weeks ago.
Oh, man. Yeah. So it's been a lively morning today already. We've had some golf tips, conversation, some basketball. Maybe we should get some ideas on bonus material conversations.
That would be awesome. Hey, well, you know what we could do? I want to come up there with you for your club fitting. And we ought to do just bring a video, just bring a camera, set it up on a tripod, and just do. Here we are today at Chris's club fitting. He's hitting some irons. We're switching some shafts around, trying to get it all. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't know that I want to be exposed to that public scrutiny with my golf swing or not, though.
Well, we'll do. Well,
edit out. We can't edit out if we're doing it live. I don't know.
I know. Well, we'd have to do. That's going to be a pre-recorded one.
Can we superimpose your swing on me? I just hit my 7-iron 297 yards. That's amazing.
We'll have you hit a driver. And then you swing, and then we'll shot it to the TrackMan deal and be like, golly, what club are you hitting? Oh, man. Jared Staten, he said he got a club fitting done. It didn't help. Turns out the clubs weren't the problem. Well, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth. As our dad used to say, a poor musician blames his instrument, right? True.
So
very true.
Yeah. So, man, we appreciate everybody being on the show today. This is gonna be a good one today, bro.
There's some real good positive energy, whatever that means.
Yeah, you're broadcasting live from the basement.
I am.
Not really. Well, if you're exiled today, I don't know.
Well, here's what happened. Can I tell you?
What happened?
Can I tell you exactly? So yesterday, for those of you, well, okay, so let's pause the word yesterday. Parentheses for all of you that didn't know, Scott and Kaylin had our third grandbaby.
Let's go.
Charlotte Grace Haltom was born this past weekend, and so
Congratulations. That's
yeah,
awesome.
really cool. And so anyway, so I worked about 9 hours out in the yard yesterday, which is
Mm,
if I start sniffing and whatever, y'all know why. But anyway, so here we are. Last night she went and got something. She said, "I'm gonna go get something to eat real quick." And so we were eating, and she said, "How fast can you clean up?" And I said, "Well, fast, I suppose. I mean, what are we doing?" And she said, "I want to go see the baby." All right. So anyway, so I real fast cleaned up and threw my backpack in the back seat of her car. Um, and so this morning I got ready to leave,
mm.
and I said, "Hey, babe, hey, is my backpack in your car?" She said, "I'm turning around." She didn't even say yes. She said,
Yeah.
"I'm turning around." I said,
Yeah.
"No, don't worry about it. There, no amount of equipment makes me sound better or worse. I just don't have a great voice." I said,
Whatever.
"So." I said, "So I'll go down to the basement. I'll throw the headphones on to sort of fake people out. Like, where's his microphone? Like, you know,
Well, that's
I
awesome, man. Congrats to Scott and Kaylin and the family. Beautiful
know,
family.
I
And
know, man.
that's
It's
exciting stuff, bro.
really
Three-time
cool.
three-time pawpaw.
Pawpaw, what's
That's
up with Pawpaw?
amazing. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Look here. Look,
Oh,
see if I get some brownie points with my wife on there with the baby.
that's fantastic, man. Princess Charlotte.
Princess Charlotte.
How awesome is that? Well, that's a good I mean, that's a good reason, right? That's a good reason. You got a lot going on there. So we're just glad you made it, bro.
Hey, I'm here. I'm ready. I've got my A game with
Mm,
me.
I
I
believe that
I told Scott and Kaylin yesterday. I said, "Man, look at this." I said, "This baby's already got us in her web."
already. It can happen quick, doesn't it?
Charlotte's.
Happens quick. Well, man, let's get rolling and get the conversation started today. Again, we appreciate everybody being on Facebook. Man, I started to say Twitter again, bro. It just is not going to change.
Mm,
X, Facebook, X, and YouTube. You can hit the share button on Facebook, the repost,
mm-hmm.
the big man repost
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on X, and whatever you do on Twitter, you can do that as well. So we're glad you're on. We're looking forward to a great conversation today. It's going to be awesome. Today, Ken, we want to have the
Yeah.
discussion. Uh, so so as a disciple maker,
Okay.
to truly
All right.
be well, I mean, to truly be a disciple, you have to make the Lord begins to alter and adjust what's important in your life,
Very true.
right? And I had a conversation with somebody here recently, and they were asking some questions about what they should do, like what do I need to do to draw closer to God? What do I need to give up? That was really kind of the conversation was like, what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? All that kind of stuff. And I said, well, we need to back up just one step, just a little bit. We talk a lot about, the definition of a disciple is a person that's willing to let Jesus change what you care about to match and reflect what he cares about.
Right.
So I don't want you just changing just because you think this is what you're supposed to do as a believer, as a follower of Jesus. This is what you're supposed to do. So go do this, get it in your heart so that I'll certainly guide and I'll give you, I'll confront some places with you, not in a confrontational way, but just bring some tension in some places where I think there needs to be some change. But also don't want you just to have the list like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to go do it. One
Right.
of the things that begins to change as a disciple is that you have a desire to then make disciples, to fulfill the purpose and the mission that God has given you. In order to do that, either of those things, to be a disciple or be a disciple maker, you have to start making adjustments
Mm-hmm.
to what you value. and
There you go.
what's really important, what really matters in this life, because the truth is we all give ourselves to things that we think are so important and that matter so much when really that's, they're not, obviously, they're not eternal things. Material things are gonna go up in smoke, all that kinda stuff, and so today what we wanna talk about is we wanna have just kind of a conversation about about giving our lives the things that how do we make that adjustment? So the conversation is how to live, or how to determine what doesn't really matter, or how to live your life for lesser
Right.
things, the seemingly lesser things. So I'm just gonna throw it to you, just kinda get this conversation kicked off and get it started about, uh, how do we identify places in us maybe that like we're giving ourselves to things that are really, we think they're important, but they're not really important. And the
It's
things
true.
that we don't think have value as a disciple of Jesus, give ourselves and begin to make those changes to the things that might be considered the lesser things.
Well, I think one of the things that's important as we think about that is sometimes it's good to think about what not to do before as you think about what should I do,
Sure.
what are the lesser things. I know this sounds crazy, but in the biblical story there are examples where what what is the lesser thing is highlighted as like the common, like it's the norm.
Sure.
So I think and even theologically you have to come at it from the angle of saying, in a fallen world, we live in a fallen world, and so in this fallen world that we live in, the so much of the things that are super important, great things, like you're like, this is what life is about.
Yeah.
This is what life is about. And yet what we find is, until there's a revelation or understanding of what really matters,
Yeah.
then those lesser things are okay. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's okay to say, well, I'm gonna be the best, um, whatever. I'm okay. So Victor Hovland
Yeah.
won PGA championship,
Blew
and
everybody's
blew,
socks off,
just
man, just killed
unbelievable,
them.
man. Unbelievable. What a time to peak, you know. Um, that's like dad used to always say, we don't want to have the greatest team at the beginning of the year. We want to always have the greatest team at the end of the year, because that's when they pass out trophies. But
Right?
but I mean, the thing is, I think you could look at Victor Hovland, who won, by the way, a record single season PGA earnings record of just under $35 million.
Whew, that's a good year.
That's a good career.
Right? Absolutely.
That's a good career. I wouldn't mind working for 35 years, making $1 million a year, and then go into retirement.
Right?
Right? That's I mean, but here's the deal. He makes that 1 year. So somebody might be saying, dude, I'm gonna practice and I'm gonna get good and I'm gonna become a PGA golfer. I'm gonna be the best PGA golfer. I'm gonna, whatever. And if if all there is to this life is this life, then
Yeah.
that's an okay, um that's an okay goal or objective.
Sure.
And so what happens is it's interesting, because theologically the Bible sort of postures our life and our world without God as being in darkness, and that we're giving ourselves to things that are that in an eternal perspective don't matter. So I think it's interesting, as we look at in our fallenness, we could. we almost have to walk through some of the stuff that don't really matter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because, like, the question is, okay, so, the old statement, have you ever seen a U-Haul being towed behind a hearse? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in the he right, somebody said, he who dies with the most toys wins.
Yeah.
Okay. But then somebody else comes along and says, he who dies with the most toys is dead. Like,
Right.
all right, it's
Right.
like,
Right.
you
You
know,
can't use the toys.
yeah, right. So I think I just think it's really cool as we, as we walk through some of this today to kind of as we sort of posture, well, there's some things that really don't matter.
Yeah.
Why don't they matter? And then how does that help to change our perspective? Not just simply saying, well, this really actually does matter to me, but I know it shouldn't matter, and so
Right. And
that's not discipleship, right?
correct. And one of the things we talk a lot about is most things can be neutral, right? Most things are neutral. And I think the comment that you made that just kind of really resonated with me was, what are the things that produce, the joy and happiness in our lives,
Hmm.
right? I think that's a
Right.
good indicator.
Yeah.
If so like for example, the love of money is the root of all evil. We know that. We know it's harder for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Like we know those things. We understand the pull, but the reality is you can be broke and greedy.
Bro. Or poor and super focused on money.
Right, that's what I'm saying, like, you just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean that you have greed or whatever, and I think part of discipleship process is learning how to put those things that have the potential, right? Jesus called them rulers. You're gonna serve one of 2 things. You're gonna serve
Mm,
God or you're gonna serve money.
so
The
good.
that have the potential to rule and reign in your life. As a disciple of Jesus, a lot of times what happens, what we try to do is like we try to just eliminate all of that out of our lives, but you're not gonna eliminate money. We have to learn how to put it in its proper place
Hmm.
and do some really deep introspection and some real honesty, right? Being, one of the things we talk about is self-discovery and discipleship, the discipleship process, because you know you better than anybody else. And the reality is if money is your sense of security, it's your sense of affirmation, if it's your sense of fulfillment, if it's
Hmm.
your sense of security, then
Yeah,
it's assumed a role that is
there
inadequate.
it
It
is.
can't fulfill that.
There
And
it is.
yet so many people give themselves to those things. But it could be a career. It could be what you're talking about, like the toys, accumulating all those things. Those are the things that bring me happiness. There's nothing wrong with having a boat and a four-wheeler or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But if those things begin to supersede the most important things in life, the most valuable things in life, now all of a sudden they've assumed a role that 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 ultimately usurps the authority of God in your life, the place of God in your life. And this is where oftentimes people get pulled away. And,
Yeah,
we try to eliminate those things. And in reality, if those things have that place in art, it's a discipleship issue because we're
so
giving
bro,
ourselves to lesser things.
that's so good. I had a I had a family one time, um, who they were going to buy a boat, and I said that's cool, and I said, what do what do you need a boat? Why do you want a boat? Like, are you gonna get like a speedboat or a fishing boat or what? What kind of boat you getting?
Pontoon.
Well, pontoon boat. And they said, we're gonna get a boat that's a like ski boat, but we're talking about, maybe they were talking about getting one of those, like there's a like a hybrid kind of a pontoon boat that's actually got you can actually tube off of it and whatever. So anyway, and they said, and so anyway, the point that they were making was, they said, we just feel like, man, life is stressful and we just need to get away, and and whatever. And I said, man, I totally get it. And then I started noticing, like, they were missing like 2 out of 4 Sundays, and whatever.
Right.
And so I just had a serious conversation with them one day and said, "Now, I don't think God cares that you got a boat." I said, and I believe that people do need, like, to get away and they need to rest. And I
Sure.
believe that, getting out on the water and just soaking it in sometimes is, it's a good therapeutic. But just make sure that what you're really what you're really needing isn't being replaced by your boat. In other words, the Sabbath that
Mm-hmm.
comes from
Yes.
Christ.
Yes.
Like, if life is really stinking and you're like, God have mercy, man, Monday through Friday is taking so much out of me. I just need to get to the lake. Hey, pastor. Hey, man, you're not going to see us this weekend. It's just been a terrible week. We just need to get to the lake where our family needs to reconnect. And I'm like, I get it. Like a boat, you could do all that stuff, right? You
Yeah.
could do all that stuff. It's not like the boat is the problem. It's I think what we're talking about today is really understanding, like, is the life tension trying to reveal to you something that
Right.
Jesus wants, and only Jesus can be for you.
Right. Absolutely. And man, you bring up such a great point there, because I think what that reveals, and I love that you mentioned that the Sabbath, obviously we're not Seventh-day Adventists,
Right.
but we also understand and believe a lot of times what happens is people.
We're spiritual Sabbath keepers.
Absolutely. And because people don't have, and I'm gonna throw myself into this category, okay? Let me say it this way. Sometimes because I am not a good steward of the time that God gives me,
Bro.
then I feel like that, well, man, I gotta get away, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. The reality is the refreshing the refreshing comes from that communion with him and being in communion with him, right? Now, but also being a steward of my time. Am I getting good sleep? Am I, turning off my phone? Am I getting away, like, on a consistent, regular basis? If I'm doing those things, I'll find myself start to get refreshed. Again, I'm not against vacations. I'm not against going to
No,
the lake. I'm
see,
not against any of that
no,
kind of stuff.
right? All that stuff's good. Make memories, hang out with your kids.
Yeah.
That's let me Hey, can I tell a joke?
I would love for you to tell a joke.
So this guy, it's funny because the all the jokes, have Peter as, like, Saint Peter is the gatekeeper, and
He's
people
at
go
the
to
gate.
heaven, and Peter
Yeah, they
said,
get to
yeah.
the gate, yeah.
So yeah. And so
Where'd that come
anyway,
from?
I think it's Catholic.
Is Saint Peter at the gate in Catholicism?
I think he's the first pope, or first chief apostle or something. Like, he's like the
He's got
gatekeeper.
the
I don't know.
checklist, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah, he's like Santa. He's making no, Jesus is making the list, but Pete's checking it twice, I
He's
guess.
checking it.
Yeah, but anyway, so an angel goes and visits this guy, and he says to the guy, he says, "Hey, we don't normally do this, but we wanted to give you a chance because you've been kind of up and down in your walk with God. And just wanted to let you know that you will be leaving the earth in 2 weeks, and entering into eternity." And so he says, "So I want you to you need to give yourself to God and just really, So a week later, they got to this angel comes back to this guy and says, "Hey, listen, um, the Lord wants you to know we've noticed how much things you've committed and consecrated and devoted and whatever. And so we're going to make another rare exception. We're going to let you bring one thing, inanimate
Mhm.
thing, with you to heaven." So the guy thinks and he thinks and he thinks. And so he goes and buys a great big old suitcase. And the day comes and he goes up to the gates, the pearly gates, and
The
St.
pearly
Pete,
gates.
the pearly gates. And St. Pete's standing there and he says, okay, Bob, he said, well, he said, we've made a couple exceptions in your life and here you are. And he says, why don't you throw your suitcase on the table and show us what you've brought? So he zips open with this great glee and pride and he pulls open the suitcase. And all of a sudden, Peter just starts laughing and all the angels come, they start laughing. And the guy finally looks at him. Bob says, well, what are you laughing about? They said, we gave you a week to bring something to heaven and you bring pavement.
He brought his gold.
He brought
He
pavement.
brought his gold. That's
See,
awesome.
see,
That's so awesome.
I love that joke in the context of today's conversation because what the man could think of was like, how could I sell everything I've got and
Yeah.
consolidate it into something that would fit
Yeah.
the most important things? I'm going to sell my house and sell my car. I'm going to sell all my stuff, and I'm going to consolidate it into something that basically distill all my life's wealth into something that I can carry in a suitcase.
Yeah.
And when he gets to heaven, heaven laughs because what was the most valuable thing on earth is just pavement,
Yeah.
paved stones in heaven.
Man, think about that. That is awesome. And I think it just it's a great illustration that the gap between what we value and what heaven values can be significant.
That story is illustrative of that.
I like that. That's right.
Yeah.
One of the things kind of as we're talking here, one of the statements that I love, Jordan Peterson makes the statement, and he said, one of the reasons I think that millennials, Gen X, or I'm sorry, Gen Z,
Hmm.
they're it's well documented, dealing with anxiety and dealing with some of these kind of emotional issues and challenges.
Hmm.
And he said one of the reasons I think that we've done that is because we have pounded into their heads forever,
Hmm.
do what you love.
Mm.
Do what you love. And here's what
Mm.
Jordan Peterson said, bro, and this is just like, man, this has stuck with me so much. He said, the problem with that, the reason that it doesn't work is because doing what you love is rooted in the most selfish of
Yeah.
ambitions,
Wow.
and it produces such a self-focused mindset
Mm.
mentality that it then begins to highlight the deficiencies, what you
Hmm.
don't have,
Mm.
what you're not capable of, whatever. And here's what Jordan Peterson said. He said, "Bro, this is powerful, man." He said, "Don't do what you love, do what matters."
Hmm. So
Do s
true.
do something that matters, because so I think a lot of what we're talking about today is the things that we think we need are so important. A lot of times the issue is it's rooted and built on selfish ambition, selfish desires. But when you give yourself to things that are impacting, that make a difference, that make an impact, that are life changing, now all of a sudden you get a sense of fulfillment that can only come from that. And the greatest sense of fulfillment ultimately comes from being obedient to the plan of God, the purpose of God, the will of God in your life, what He wants you to do, giving yourself to others. So like obviously we're a little bit passionate about disciple making and about that whole process, and uh, understanding that there's nothing we can give ourselves to that is more important than reaching people with the gospel of Jesus. So we're not against doing things that make an impact in this world. Like I think Scripture's very clear, right? That we have to uh, a responsibility to take care of the poor. We have a
Yeah.
responsibility to help people in need and to do all those kinds of things. And there's nothing wrong with with doing things that help people in this life. There is a sense of fulfillment that can come from that, but the greatest thing that we can do is give ourselves to helping people to experience that the things of this life can't fulfill.
So good.
Only Jesus can fulfill.
How would so today, if we're talking, and maybe our incredible audience can join in on this, but how would we today, if we were looking at like, okay, how do we determine what matters or what doesn't matter?
Yeah.
What would be some ways, like what would be some ways that you would say, so like in a, like this would be a great training ground for some that maybe hasn't been through some of the stuff we do with the Mobilized Church Network or whatever, to have conversations with people to say, because there sometimes you could have a, and I think, Chris, I think this is something that as disciple makers, we better really wrap our brain around. Like, we could go through this entire podcast today and go through this entire conversation today and end up with this, end up at this place where we're like, okay, well, we reinforced some things that we believe, where we reinforced
Yeah.
our, biblical worldview
Mhm.
or whatever. But the question is, one of the things we want to do is it's just to answer the question, did we help people today become better disciples and by extension better disciple makers, right? Like Jay
Yeah.
Jones said, disciple making can't happen without disciple being. And and so what I think is important as we talk about some of this today, maybe some of the our audience can sort of join in and say, what makes something matter, right?
Yeah.
Like the gold story, joke. What really matters in one place doesn't matter in another place, and so then I guess you could say, well, so one value system, or way to create a value system, is compare it to its value in heaven.
Sure.
So the value you
Sure.
have, compare it to the value in heaven. And I know this is crazy, but just like you said with money, one example with money is you could say, well, okay, so the love of money is the root of all evil. So if money is something that serves you,
Yeah.
or money is something that tries to make you happy, or money is something that displaces God's role as your benevolent, sovereign heavenly Father,
Yeah.
right? Who wants to be your security and your resource and whatever,
Yeah.
then money starts serving a role that only God can serve. But if you let money serve eternal purposes,
Yeah.
then the way you used and spent your money on earth is valuable.
Sure.
And so so I think it's just really cool today to think about, like, there may be people around us, just like you just mentioned, that may have spent their life doing all kinds of things trying to be happy. And you said, don't do what makes you happy, do what matters. So then the question then becomes, okay, well, then what matters?
Sure.
And I think for believers, we say what matters is what matters to God and what matters in his kingdom, which thus will matter in eternity. So, like, if you're having a conversation with someone, let's say someone's talking to you and said, man, I've got this and I've got that, and I don't, I've done all this, and I've worked and I've achieved and I've got all of these things. I've got plaques on the wall and whatever, and I'm not satisfied. And I've just gone from one endeavor in life to the next endeavor, and I keep crushing it, and it's still not. What is wrong?
Yeah.
This is a a spiritual conversation that you could literally have with people who are wearing themselves out in life with things that really don't matter, or lesser things. And I think learning what we're talking about today could actually give somebody the ability to have amazing spiritual conversations.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about this, like what you're talking about, is in the comments and the conversation, I think it illustrates the clear point that we can give you some principles and some guidance on some things, but ultimately it does come down to being the disciple and your perspective and your vantage point. And so my man Jimmy Jennings asked the question about finances and success, right? Looking at finances and success through the eyes of God more than kind of what the way the world looks at that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so the question then becomes a very personal one, right? You can't I don't think you can just put a blanket statement on this is what it is. For some people, success and money is where they get their affirmation from,
Mhm.
right?
Which is an
Success
identity issue.
success and money can be where you get your security from.
Mm.
So looking at it through the eyes of God, money's not the issue. Success is not the issue.
Mhm.
The issue is that you have allowed other things to be your
Substitutes.
source of affirmation and your source of security. So for that person, success it doesn't mean, well, go and be unsuccessful or go and give away all your money. What it means is, no, you need to be the disciple of Jesus. Let him change that. What is it in your life that has brought you to a place where he's not enough for you? He's not your affirmation and he doesn't bring you security. So Jared Staten, talked about on the flip side about money, there are people that allow their lack to limit them in their walk with God. Sometimes you can uh, again, because of maybe somebody was raised in poverty and they kind
Right?
of have this poverty mentality and
So true.
they're always without. You could argue on the flip side of it that there's an element of a lack of faith and dependence on God, right? That says, I believe God is gonna provide, he's gonna make a way. He's
Mhm.
my source, he's the one that does all that. So it really ultimately, it does come down to a place of and I love the way you said this. It really comes down to being a disciple and evaluating it. Am I applying the proper measurement, the proper weight
Mm.
of whatever the issue is or whatever the item is, whether it's money, success, materialism, any of that kind of, am I putting the proper perspective on it the way Jesus would do that? And then
Bro.
the second piece is what is it in me? Okay, so just personal testimony, right? And I've talked about this quite a bit. Being, like the differences between us, you as a freshman, you were like 6'1", 150. I was or maybe 6'2", I was 5'2", 80 pounds, right? And
Mhm.
so what it produced in me was a work ethic that was
Mhm.
like, "Don't underestimate me because I will outwork the snot out of you. I'll work so hard and I'll give myself to it." So that it produced a lot of good things in the natural, right? Like in sports and in the corporate world and all of those kinds of things, like that kind of mentality and that kind of mindset produced a lot of positive things. But deep down inside, what I knew was that's not pleasing to the Lord. That's not,
Wow.
that's not, you know, my affirmation came from accomplishing and doing things that people said, you won't be able to do those, right? I had to let Jesus come and work on my heart and begin to change me. The accomplishments were not the issue.
Yeah.
Being successful in the corporate world that wasn't the issue. The issue was that became what defined me. And I wrote,
Mm.
here's oh bro, I feel this big time. What that did was it caused me to ride the emotional roller coaster.
Mhm.
Right? The ups and downs, the emotional
Mm.
roller coaster. When the promotions are coming, I'm feeling good. When the accolades are coming, I'm feeling good. When they're not, I'm seeking them out. I gotta have this. And 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 it was one of the most liberating experiences that I've ever gone through in my life when I walked through a discipleship piece and I felt like the Lord spoke to me and said, "If you wanna go where I want you to go, I'm gonna have to pull this stuff out of you, the
Mm.
affirmation coming from other places." It was literally one of the most liberating experiences I've ever had in my life because, bro, for my whole entire life, I had given myself to proving people wrong,
Hmm.
accomplishing. I needed the accolades. I needed all of that. And then to get to a place that says the only thing that matters is, does it please the Lord? Does it please him? So I can have money or not have money and be okay. I can be successful or not be successful in the eyes of people and be totally okay, as long as I'm doing what Jesus asked me to do. I'm trying to live my life sold out completely to him, and I'm fulfilling his purpose and his mission. There's peace and contentment.
So stinking good. Isn't it weird as you talk about that too? Like, so you think about like living for lesser things, like when you're talking about that, those things are dominating. And so, you know, and so really what you were living for was you were living to live down
Yeah.
what you felt you weren't.
Mm,
And and
so true.
and really isn't that the story of lost fallen people? And what's so weird is he has put eternity in our hearts, and so what do? We go try to be like God, the stupid curse of the stinking
Absolutely, bro.
first fall. I'm going to go create something that's
100%.
that's going to, but here's the deal. And it doesn't, like, we need somewhere along the way we have to stop and go, okay, so you're going to go produce something. Why? So that it could prove that you're not something. See, you can't. God God produced and created the world as a revelation of what he was. It was an extension of him. It wasn't to recreate his image or to uh, to to um outlast the negative, or to break free from poverty, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing, this is the crazy thing about, I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking, but we're you know speaking about, sometimes we think of pistuo, of faith. For us, for many people, faith is belief. They're
Sure.
like beliefs. It's like your belief system. I believe,
Right.
the scripture says this and whatever.
Right.
But what's funny is that at the end of the day, faith is actually putting your full trust and confidence and resting it on something. Like, so, like, here I'm going to turn right here, and I've got a cup, and that cup is stewing on the table.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
being it's being supported completely by the table. I'm not going to show you sitting on my chair, but here I am sitting on a chair right now, and my feet aren't even on the ground. I'm supporting myself zero.
Yeah.
This chair is supporting me completely, and that's the thing. You said the liberating thing. I think the liberating thing is always that Jesus did it perfectly
Yeah.
and invites
Yes.
us to come and just set all that stuff aside. Put all of your identity quest, put all of your security quest, put all of that aside, because I've got an identity for you.
Yeah.
I've got security for you. It's all waiting on you. All I'm asking you to do is pistuo, settle all of your trust and rest in me.
So good, man. So good. And we've talked about like money and success and finances, whatever. I think another big one that people kind of lean towards or whatever, that can really get you in a lot of trouble, is relationship.
Yeah,
That somehow a relationship is going to fill the void.
bruh.
And the truth is, I mean, how many people have entered into a marriage or a dating
Bro.
relationship or whatever, thinking that this person is gonna fill me and it's gonna satisfy me. It's gonna that emptiness that I'm feeling, that person, and then they become upset with that person because they don't fill the void.
Mm,
And here's the deal. It was God who said it's not good for man to be alone, right?
right.
So a relationship is it's not bad. It's not, we're not monks. So we understand that God is the one that created relationships. But if your expectation that that other person is somehow going to fill the void in your life, the
Mm.
vastness of the man, there's no way that that person can ever do that. But what
No.
God does do, this is the thing we're talking about, Ken, as all of these things. When we talk about like Pistuo, right? He supports everything and doing life God's way. One of my favorite scriptures says that when a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies be at peace with him.
Mhm.
Why? How can a man's ways please the Lord? Well, when God's ways become my ways, that's how I please the Lord, right? Why? Because God's way is a better way.
Come on,
It is
somebody.
it is the better way. So if I can go Pistuo and let him
Mhm.
support every place in my life, it doesn't mean that I'm not gonna have deficiencies or I'm not gonna have
Right.
inadequacies or whatever, but when I allow him to be my support, now my wife, I'm not looking at her putting these expectations on her that she has to fill all of these voids, and if she doesn't, then I'm gonna get ticked off and go find another relationship. But if I can go Pistuo with the Lord and let him support everything in my life, now she can come alongside. She can be that helpmeet. I
Right.
can help support her. So it's not we're not saying, man, just let Jesus fill all the needs. What we are saying is he's the only one that can be the full support for you. And then when he brings relationships or he brings money or he brings things or he whatever it is, right? Titles and
Mhm.
position, when he brings those things into your life, you're not so dependent on these things that if what would happen? What would happen if the Lord took away your title? I think
Yeah.
that's a I think that's a good standard to identify. What would happen if God took away your money? What would happen if God took away your boat? If God took what happened if those things were out of your life? How would it affect you, right?
Mhm.
If as long as I have my relationship with God, I'm doing his purpose, I'm doing his mission. Jay Jones earlier in the comments made the comment about, Paul didn't give himself to becoming the best tent maker in Corinth. He used it as a means to support the mission. Bro, you and I both, we've worked secular jobs, we've evangelized making peanuts, like we've gone through all that kind of stuff. None of that matters
Yeah.
whether we've got extra money or a
Yeah.
little bit of money. None of
Paul
that
said, I've
matters.
learned how to be abased. I've learned how to abound.
And here's what he said. He said, "I've learned in whatever state I'm in, I've learned to be content."
Yep.
What that tells me is that is not a natural response to
Mm.
the conditions of life. You
Yeah.
have to learn.
One of the most misunderstood, just on that topic,
Yeah.
godliness with contentment is great gain.
Mhm.
I mean, that
Right.
doesn't, godliness with contentment is great gain.
Think
And
about that,
that doesn't
which
make,
is your
it doesn't
this is
make
the whole
sense.
podcast. This is what we're
Right.
talking about today.
Yeah. Yeah. How crazy was it when the Pharisees come along and they said to Jesus, they're quoting the Mosaic Levitical system when they said, well, the law of Moses says that if a man dies, that his wife should, uh, that the younger brother then assumes that responsibility as the patriarch because of the bloodline of Christ and all that.
Sure.
And so he said, so there was a brother and he died, and the next brother had her as a wife, and then he died, and the next brother, and he's, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? And Jesus said, you do err, not knowing
Yeah.
the scriptures
Yeah.
nor the power of God.
Mm.
For in the resurrection, they will be as the angels, neither marrying nor giving in marriage. So what happens is is that the that Jesus is basically saying you're looking out of a lens
Yeah.
that you're seeing eternity from an earth up
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, this is the way it is here. So there, whose wife shall she be? And he goes, see, here's your problem. Every time that you try to figure out the kingdom with an earth up perspective, it'll never make sense. You have to actually understand your world from a heaven down perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it goes right along with our conversation today, of just basically saying, there are, like you were talking about, like, trying to create a sense of identity or whatever. And you mentioned this earlier, a moment ago. You said you're pursuing in Christ, and we think of that being sort of like this unilateral thing. Like, we make this one decision, we're pursuing in Christ. But here's the deal: we are way more complex creatures than that. We are way more dynamic than that.
Sure.
We all have a need for security. We all need validation. We all need
Yeah.
intimacy. We all need relationship. We all need, on and on and on, right?
Sure.
There are basic needs. And so I think this is the thing that we're talking about today, is those basic needs being met outside of that place where the Bible said you are complete in him.
Right.
Period.
In him we
You
move and
are
breathe and have
complete.
our being, right?
So now what can you do? Once you become complete in him, then everything else that you are and do flows out of that completeness.
Yeah.
So it's like people have a hard time sometimes even being disciple makers, because what happens? They need that relationship. They need that validation. They need that affirmation. They don't want to fear. They fear rejection. It's like, wait, time out. What can man do to you?
Yeah.
Just,
Right.
well, I just don't want to be rejected. What can man do to you?
Sure.
You've been accepted and received. I think this is why Jesus said, if you're afraid to acknowledge me before men, he
Yeah.
said, if you're embarrassed,
Yeah.
is,
Ashamed.
ashamed. If you're ashamed of me before men, I will be ashamed of you before my heavenly Father. Right? And the thing about, and why is this? Why? Because it was more important to you to be accepted and received by humans
Yeah.
than to be accepted and received by the creator of your soul.
My goodness, there it is.
Just
Right?
fruit to root right there.
100%, man. It's so true. And just to bring a little tension, like one of the things that I think with this conversation, we've talked about the importance. Obviously, you've got to be a disciple, and we've said, sometimes people are disciplable until they're not. Just because they're disciplable in some areas doesn't mean that they are in all areas. And one of the things, if you're really going to fulfill the purpose of God in your life, the purpose of God is the mission. And so here's the deal. If we don't get a hold of this, Ken, you will never be able to fulfill the purpose and the mission of Jesus in your life. You'll never be,
which you were created.
for which you were created, because you have to make alterations and adjustments. I was telling somebody this story recently, 17 years old, finally getting serious about living for Jesus, was willing to go pistuo, all in, right? My dream, my life was built around baseball. Like every summer, that's what we did. I gave my life to it. And the Lord spoke to me at a camp meeting one time and said, would you be willing to give up everything for me? I'm like, yes, Lord, I'll give everything. I'll give you all. And I felt like the Lord impressed me. Would you give up baseball? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give up baseball. Thinking, well, there's nothing wrong with baseball.
Yeah.
It's totally and completely neutral. They're like it's America's pastime. What could be wrong with baseball? And the Lord said, okay, do it.
Yeah. That's
And
what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking.
that's what I want you to do. And so I did it, and I come home and our coach gets fired from baseball and dad becomes the coach of our baseball team. And I've got to go and tell my dad, Dad, I don't know if you're going to understand this or not, but I feel like the Lord spoke to me and wants me to give up baseball for him so I can get ready for Bible college and get ready to do the mission, the purpose, whatever. Why was that an important thing? It was an important thing because not because baseball is wrong, but
Yeah.
because it had such a place, a root in my life, and the Lord brought me to that
Come on,
place of
somebody.
tension that said, "If you're gonna do my mission and what I've called you to do, I've gotta have every place in your life." This is why, again, I've always looked at the rich young ruler and thought, "Man, it really feels unfair in a lot of ways."
Yeah.
Because he didn't tell everybody, "Go sell all that you have, give to the poor, and come follow me."
He celebrated Zacchaeus because he said, I'll give up half. I'll give up to half. And he's like, whoa, way to go, Zach. And the rich young ruler's probably out in the crowd somewhere going, for
What?
real?
That's
Half?
so unfair.
If you'd offered me that deal,
Yeah. Probably posted a blog about church hurt and stuff, how the church hurt him.
God's not
And
fair.
right? And but the point of what I'm trying to say is this, is that if you are really going to be a disciple and you're gonna fulfill his purpose, there can't be any place in your life that is off limits to him. Every
100%.
place has to be totally and completely surrendered, and I think people sometimes struggle because A, there's not much difference between us and everybody else trying to achieve the American dream, and as a disciple of Jesus, God didn't call us to achieve the American dream. And B, if you're gonna live on mission, you're gonna have to make some radical changes in your life where you get your fulfillment, right? The lady at the well, "I have meat that you know not of." I you we if we've gotta have a change where that fulfillment comes from, or you'll never be able to make the necessary
Mhm.
changes in your life
Yeah.
that help you fulfill the purpose and the mission, which is God's better way for you.
Yeah. And as you say that, the thing that sort of resonates with me in that is, that sometimes the phrase that people use is, I was made for this.
Mhm.
People are like, oh, I found it, man. I
Yeah,
have found my life's mission. I was made for this. And God will bend over backwards. God will bend over backwards to prove to you,
yeah,
no, you weren't.
yeah,
You weren't made for baseball. You weren't made to be a PGA golfer. You weren't made to be a motocross racer.
yeah,
Right? You weren't.
yeah,
I was made for this, man. No, no, you were made for him.
yeah, yeah,
And so then once you realize I was made for him, and then you pistuo in him, and then you realize that you're complete in him, and et cetera,
yeah,
man, listen, I'm telling you, man, bro, it's like, I, I was made for this. No, I was made for Jesus. I was made for God. I was made in his image for his glory.
yeah. So
So
true.
if I'm trying to get glory, if I'm trying to get accolades, if I'm trying to get, whatever, then I'm going to say I was made for this, which is a statement, a clear statement of identifying your bondage to that.
Yeah,
I was made for this. No, you were made for him, and he's the only one that will liberate you, and he has liberated us through the power of the cross. Um, and so then when we bestow on him, when we go all in, when we put our full rest and complete trust in him in all of these different areas, then we're complete in him. Then you can do some things with your life out of that completeness that makes an eternal difference and brings him glory. And God's like, I see now.
now.
Now you're not living earth up. Now you're living heaven down. Now you're thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. That's the model.
Yeah,
I want you to bring heaven down to your world. I don't want you to try to bring your world up to heaven, which is the foolish folly and mistake of the man who brought the golden bricks to heaven in his suitcase.
yeah, absolutely. I'll just finish with this. We
Okay.
we've got some business owners in our church, and, one family in particular, they've made this statement to me that, the business that God has given them, it's Jesus's business. It's his. It belongs to him, and as long as and the statement was made, as long as we allow as long as the kingdom comes first, his mission and his purpose
Mm,
comes first, and God uses that business to help fund it, to help make it happen, and all of these kinds of things. Then what, what their statement was, as long as we do that, we can trust him that he's going to take care of the business. It's his business. If he wants to take it away, he can take it away. If he wants to, right? So guess what's
So
happened?
good.
Guess what's happened? The business has continued to explode. They continue to get new customers with no marketing, with nothing.
Wow.
And why? Because it doesn't change their value, it doesn't change their identity, it doesn't change who they are. None of that really brings any of the fulfillment to them, and God is able to use that. Imagine
So good.
if we could do that in every area of our life, where we just
So
let
good.
Jesus, it's yours, it belongs to you, my ministry. Bro, we could talk ministry. It's not my ministry. It's just me doing what the place God has called me to do. It belongs to him, and if he wants to take it away, he can take it away.
Man. Story. Uh, when I was in Bible college, one of the instructors at Bible college said, he said, uh, I'll never forget. He said, I was, all my life, he said, I had a little bit too much pride, um, and joy in the vehicles I drove.
Mhm.
And he said, so the Lord had really been dealing with him about, like, is it really mine? Is, is your life mine? And by extension, all the stuff you have,
Yeah.
is it mine? Right.
Yeah.
And if it's mine, then it's a glory to me because of things that I've blessed you with that you can use. And then those things then just become utilities,
Right.
not right.
Right.
It's like a utilitarian. I love people. You're a lot like this in some ways with vehicles. Um, you're a lot you've gotten to a place for whatever reason. You're a little bit more utilitarian with your
100%.
vehicles than
100%.
I've
Doesn't matter to me.
you know I was out putting a ceramic coat on my truck yesterday, and
I don't even know what a ceramic coat
I
is.
it was well it's a topping. I got it ceramic coated and whatever. It's a black,
Mm.
F-350 truck. And really, honestly, like sometimes, it's like you're like it's a car. It's You go from one place to the other as long as as long as it's in good shape and it's,
Yeah, as long as it runs, yeah.
whatever. And so anyway, so I guess this is why maybe this story really communicates something to me. And so this instructor at Bible college said I'd always been that way, and I always wanted a nice car, and I always just took a lot of pride in my car, and whatever. And so he said God had been dealing with him and saying, if your stuff can be, um, if your stuff can be something that gives you something when you don't feel like you're getting it from me, or that you don't feel like you have it, like, wow, what if you have an identity in Christ? Then you can have a nice vehicle and you can drive it, and people are like, hey, nice, nice, F-350 Ford Power Stroke diesel. I like your truck. I'm like, yeah, God's really blessed us. Not it's not
Yeah.
right. He said, he said, so he committed that to the Lord. It's mine. The vehicle, is mine, but God, it's yours.
Yeah.
It's all yours. He said, I came out. He was somewhere. He said, I came out and there was this great big huge scratch down the side of his like brand new car.
Oof.
And he looked at it and he said, my first thought was, Lord, look what somebody has done to your nice new car. I hope he felt that down in his soul. And I don't know. I don't want to think that God immediately challenged him with that, but but the reality is, it goes back to that. I was made for this.
Yeah.
No, you were made for me. And I think at the end of the day, if you want to live for lesser things, here's our advice to you today. If you want to live for lesser things,
Yeah.
then give yourself to all of the things that won't matter in eternity, that don't matter in his kingdom. Just give yourself to it.
Exactly.
Try to let it bring you happiness. Try to let it bring fulfillment. And it really doesn't matter in God's kingdom. It doesn't matter in eternity, but it matters to you. So go for it. You do you, boo. Just go at life with all the gusto and go and make do what makes you happy. If you want to live for lesser things. If you don't, then go back and replay the podcast.
I love it. I love it. It's a great place. It's a great place to wrap it up. I think add to the long list of podcasts we need to do is truck outfitting, right? Outfitting and maintenance and getting that thing all G'd up. That's what we'd have to have a guest host for that one though.
Bro, I'm just going to tell
We
you
could
right
do it.
now. There's something about the ceramic coating that I got actually goes on your. It actually goes on your. I'm
I think you
proving
need to go back and listen to the podcast, bro.
it's right. I mean, it goes. Listen, it goes on your Carfax, bro. It
Oh, yeah.
improves the
Oh, value.
uh,
Yes, it's a value
protection.
added.
Yeah, it's 5 times thicker than the clear coat they put on at the factory. It's a utility.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna figure it out. Figure out what that even means. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we appreciate everybody being a part of the conversation today. Good one, man. It's not easy to tackle this particular topic in an hour podcast, and definitely appreciate people being a part of the discussion, the conversation, and we look forward to coming back next Tuesday, Ken. So we've got some time coming up here. We got some time. October's a little crazy, so we're gonna have to might need to do a couple recordings
I
in a
think so.
row to get some things
Yeah.
stored, and we can.
But we'll drop it like a live, like we can
Yeah,
drop it like
yeah,
on a
on the
regular time.
right day and whatever. So anyway, we'll keep you updated, keep you posted on all of that stuff that's going on. Spread the word, let everybody know about the Mobilized Church podcast. We look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10 o'clock. Until then, go live mobilized.